Good morning, everyone. It's September 13th, Tuesday morning. Just want to run through the morning charts here real quick. I haven't been able to get a video. I had some pretty serious computer problems that crashed on me unexpectedly. Fortunately, I lost a bunch of my charting settings and program that I had set into my platform. So I've been spending yesterday trying to get everything back to where I had it so I could observe the market clearly. Anyways, here are the charts this morning. We've got the US dollar index. You can see at the top here. It's the 4 hour chart, and I've zoomed back several months, and what I'm just kind of pointing out here is pretty standard info. We've seen it been forming this trend at this base for some time, and we saw the price continuing to grind lower into this support zone, and the fact that it tested it so many times and didn't really break down is actually a sign of strength. And when we had this little bear flag forming after this, I was very bearish, looking for a nice downward thrust to test this low down here. The fact that we came down, had a strong bounce, and it never really did break down through there. This is right about here is where I changed my kind of tune and said this is actually starting to look really bullish. The fact that we've kind of had this exaggerated kind of bouncing down here, trying to break through, and a hesitant is usually a sign of strength. And then I went more or less neutral, anticipating some type of bounce up to this key resistance zone, which we did. And from there, we saw a little bit of a consolidation, and we broke out of this base. And yesterday morning, I pointed out the US dollar is starting to look like it's a little toppy. It's going to take most likely a little pause for a day or two, and then it could continue higher. So you can see yesterday there's some sideways chop here. If I actually zoom in, and I'll just zoom into the 60-minute chart so you can actually see yesterday's price action. You can see we've had the extended run up, and now we're just starting to get some sideways chop, which is more or less bullish price action, because overall we've got a rally and a bull flag. And we had the same rally up here into key resistance, and then we had a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a consolidation here before it ended up making another run. And you got to remember, bull flags are usually the halfway point in the market. So you can see here from this move to this move, if you do a simple measured move, it should somewhat equal the next move. So the fact that we've got two bull flags, we might start to get a little bit toppy here. We might actually see it pull back a little bit more, but overall, if we get a nice bull flag here, we could actually see another run this distance up, or it could actually, this could be the halfway mark. If this becomes a much larger bull flag, this could be the halfway point here, so you could flip this whole move to the upside, and we could see another huge rally in the US dollar, especially if there's some serious and if some of the issues in Euroland aren't resolved. The US will start to pick up more value because they're seen as more stable. So we could see the US dollar take off, and of course, depending how things go, that might actually be somewhat bullish for stocks. I could see the US dollar going up and stocks trading sideways for some time. But usually a rising dollar could definitely hurt the equities market, and we'll kind of play that by year. So we got to be very cautious with what's going on. But I think money is trying to move into the US as more of the safe play, because nobody really knows what's going on in Euroland, how it's going to be resolved yet. They've got a lot more issues intertwined than what I think the US has. So we're going to keep our eye on that play. So expecting today in the US dollar, I expect it probably to chop sideways. I do anticipate it to most likely go higher in the near future, but I do think it needs a little bit more of a breather. It has had a huge run up, and it's starting to get a little volatile here. You can see we get a pop to new highs and then a sharp sell-off. You get a pop, very sharp sell-off, another pop, sharp sell-off. So there are sellers up here. Any bounce is getting sold into, and that could continue for a little bit. But remember, overall the trend is still up, and if anything, I would anticipate the US dollar to continue to work its way higher at the moment. Now, looking at the commodities chart, we'll just take a look what happened here yesterday. Crude oil continues to work its way up into a resistance zone. This is the 4-hour chart. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit, and here you can see we've got this rising wedge, which I really like this pattern to play on a bearish side. We got this resistance zone right here. So with this previous pivot, and you can see we had the breakdown, which was clear. Once it broke, it just continued to fall down. So the fact that we're seeing crude oil kind of work its way up in this bearish looking pattern, and volume overall is kind of tapering down. It's not really strong. We're not seeing huge surges on the upside with big volume. So I am anticipating possibly another double dip here. We'll have to just see how it plays out in the next couple sessions. I wouldn't mind trying to get a short play on crude oil, but I'm going to keep my eye on the intraday charts. We might actually short or play an inverse fund of some sort to try and catch a downdraft in crude oil. But we have to see what the U.S. dollar does. If the U.S. dollar does take off to the upside, we'll probably see crude oil come tumbling down, which will work in our favor if we can get find a good setup for shorting gold somehow. Now taking a look at the gold chart, this is a 4-hour chart of gold. You can see it goes back about a month and a half. And gold has made these previous highs. I pointed this out months ago. I pointed out in August once we saw this first rally up and the strong pullback. I said what I'm looking for are several new highs. I'm looking for a run to a new high and a strong sell-off with big volume, and then a run to another new high. Usually you get 3 highs, new highs before the market tops out, and that's pretty much where we are right now. We ended up catching a nice move up in here, got out on the sell-off, ended up getting another recovery bounce, and now it looks as though it's trying to actually roll over to the downside. And if you were to draw a trend line from way back here, we're working our way to a level where gold could end up falling off a cliff here and coming down to my original target, which I pointed out back in August. If once all this happens, we're likely to come back down to this gap fill and in this previous little support zone, which will be around the 1640 area, which is a pretty substantial drop from here. So we got to be very cautious to the downside. For the bullish point of view for gold, of course, there's so much fear overseas of what's going to happen. Headline news can affect gold very quickly. We can see gold go right back up and possibly start a new rally. So gold is overbought in my opinion. You can see there's sellers. Once it makes a new high, it's getting sold off with some strong volume. So there are sellers up here, but we've got that fear of news, headline news hitting the market, and it causes waves of individuals to pile into gold and push it back up. So it's kind of a real push and pull action for gold, and same with silver. So it's got a little more risk than normal at these levels. I'd really like to see it purge and clean itself out. And if I was to zoom way out here and kind of look forward, I'd like to see some type of price action in gold come somewhere down in here, and we'd see it eventually try and form some type of base and work its way up, and then in several months down the road possibly start a new run to a new high. So taking a look at silver, this is just a quick zoom in. This is the 4-hour chart of silver. You can see we had that big sell-off a while ago. It's been trading sideways in that range, really choppy here. Tough chart to read, and I don't really want to get involved in silver right now. Overall, I think it's a little bit, had a good little sell-off yesterday. It is sitting right at a mid-level here of support, so there's a good chance for a bounce, but overall it's a guessing game for silver here. Just the chart isn't really helping point out any real direction. Now taking a look at the SP 500 for yesterday's price action. This is the 10-minute chart, zooming back about 6 trading sessions. You can see along the bottom, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 12th. Yesterday in the morning we saw the US dollar, or for most of the day we saw the US dollar continue to rise, and a rising dollar was pushing the equities market down. We actually had a break of last week's low, and usually that's a good sign. We had the fact that we had this kind of grind down. US dollar was overbought. I was anticipating some type of bounce to come into the market here, and near the close there we saw a nice wave of buying. We saw some good strong volume across the market, and then we saw a little bit of a pause, and of course that broke a previous high, so we actually had a nice impulse leg up. We had a little bit of a pullback, and then we saw huge volume step into the close, pushing it right up, and right up near the highs, breaking even the previous day's high. So we've got a pretty bullish price action going into yesterday. I think it was the fact that we were kind of getting oversold and we were down in a support zone. It was only going to matter of time before we had enough people kind of start to cover their shorts, and once it starts to make a new high, then we're going to see some serious short covering kick in. And I think that's all that was a short covering bounce into the close. A lot of people, just the fact that we broke this previous high, these ones, and then we were closing above another one. I think it just triggered a lot of stops. A lot of people had kept ratcheting down their protective stops who were short, and the second that the market started to break any of those key levels that they had triggered, we just saw the orders getting picked up and bought, and of course that buys the market right back up. So that's all I think that was a short covering rally. I think we could see some choppiness overall, and then I think we're going to hopefully see the market rally, but at this time we really don't have any idea what it's going to do. If we just zoom out a little bit, you can see we're trading at some pretty major support zone down here. We still have some ways to go, but right now it's holding a pretty key level at this is the SPY ETF, so at 112.50 is a pretty key level. I'd like to see it try and put in this bottom right here and actually possibly make a nice thrust to the upside to break this previous high. And then if we get some type of pullback, I'd be more inclined to go long somewhere back in here, and then from there we could actually get a nice move up, because right now it looks as though the market is trying to put in a bottom, but overall it's still forming. In the grand scheme of things, it's still kind of a bear flag. You have the previous trend down, it's kind of just had a pause, and if it breaks down out of here, then we're probably going to see a big downdraft, which would mean the US dollar is probably going to rocket higher and start that rally I kind of pointed out earlier. So taking a look at the futures this morning of the SP 500, you can see yesterday's price action, which is this is a 24-hour chart of the SP 500. So here are the regular trading hours. That is 9:30 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. That's when the majority of the volume is traded on the indexes. And you can see we had the sell-off through most of the day, and then into the close we got a nice strong short covering rally. That short covering rally carried over for an hour or so last night. Started to get choppy, and then it started to give back its gains this morning, coming right back down to this major this key support zone from yesterday. It's pretty much the midway point of all the action, and we've got a bit of a bounce this morning as it's working its way higher. So we'll just see how things play out. We're going to have a small gap down at this time, only a couple points, fraction of a percent, so not really much of a gap, and we still got some time to go before the market opens, so it could it'll be pretty much flat for the session. Anyways, that's it for now, and I'll update in a little bit. Talk to you later. Bye bye.